Hey there, I am so glad you're here. Come on in and enjoy Coffee Chat at the Cubby Hole. Okay, you might be thinking, coffee sounds fun, but girl, what is the Cubby Hole? The Cubby Hole was a divine little nudge on my heart, if you will, to build this space in our basement, in our home, where our friends and family could come and receive encouragement and love. And that's exactly what we've been doing. I've always known that the Cubby Hole would have a ripple effect out into the world, that it could bring encouragement and hope, not just to people that could visit here in person. That is exactly why I do coffee chats. I get to take some of the coolest people that are just like you and just like me, who have skill and talent, but most importantly, they have a vulnerable, relatable story that we can all glean some hope and encouragement from. So grab a coffee, cozy up, and enjoy Coffee Chats at the Cubby Hole. Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to Coffee Chat at the Cubby Hole. I am so glad you're here. I've been patiently waiting for you to get here. I've been so excited about today's Coffee Chat because that is our topic of the day, patience. Are you patient all the time? I'm not. You know, it's so easy to be impatient in our world because why? There's so many frustrations all around. There is overwhelm. There's disappointment. So much is swirling around us. And, you know, it's interesting, this energy of that we have to do. It's so incredibly pervasive in our culture. We have to do more. We have to be more. We become impatient. So easy to lose our patience. Before I introduce my incredible guest, I want to share this with you. This is a concept. It's a roadmap that I share when I do group coaching. I do my transformational talks. I am so passionate about what I do because there's transformation in so many arenas for us. But the thing is, we don't even know what it is we need the transformation on. And that's what I love to point out to people. I have to point it out to myself first. But this is the roadmap that I love to share, is that it all starts, whatever we want to change in our life, it all starts with awareness. And that's what today's show is about, placing a value on the awareness of patience. And of course, as you travel through the roadmap, you know, the process is the vision, seeing the change, and then you get to experience the change, and then you get to experience the growth. And who doesn't want that? But in the beginning side of it, where we're impatient and we're not even aware of it, it might show up in your life like you're showing up angsty or frustrated or affecting the relationships around you, or vice versa. People are doing that to you, but there is no way to change it because you're not even aware of it. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to place a value, like a gold star for all of us, if we even have the awareness of being more patient. And we're going to talk about some ways that we can go about that. My special guest today, Brian Kohatsu, he is a comedian. He is so talented. Here's a fun fact about him, though. He has innately been patient most of his life. Thank goodness he was able to find the awareness in that. People pointed that out to him. It's a gift. Lord knows it's a gift. Brian Kohatsu is so talented. He is a stand-up comedian now, but he spent 20 years as an award-winning director. He is a pro at improv. He is now a stand-up comedian. He's a husband. He's a father. He is so accomplished in the comedy arena. He's had a dry bar special. He travels around doing corporate events, church events, you name it. And then he was able to gain national recognition on Sirius XM. So would you please welcome from Arizona? I am so excited that he got up so early for all of us. Please welcome my friend, Brian Kohatsu.
Well, hello, Marlo. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm doing really well. I'm awake. I woke up. I worked out already. I got my coffee. I'm ready to talk to you.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Thank you. It's early for you. Plus you got the workout in already. That is gold star for you. That's incredible.
Yeah.
You have your own show. So let's start by, tell us about what you, is it Thursdays you have your show?
Thursday mornings and at an obscene hour, way earlier than this. So myself, comedians Chris Wineland, Josh Novi, and Mike James. Mike and I have lived here in Arizona, but the other two recently have moved here within the last few years, and we just now have gotten to know each other. Long story, because of Dry Bar is kind of how that all came together, and also members of the CCA. And but we were on a Zoom chat with each other, and we were just doing what comics do when they talk. And so we were laughing, and Chris said, "Hey, this should be a morning show. Let's do that." Which for some reason all of us went okay, and then now we wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
It's funny. I tuned you guys, and it is so funny. That early in the morning, it's a great boost.
Yeah. So the morning laugh, it's not a heavy show at all. It's exactly what it is. The morning laugh. We just kind of take the topics of the day, talk about them, just kind of joke around with that for about an hour or so. And then we throw that. So that's on Facebook via the same service we're using now, where you can watch it live. Then it goes to podcast, so you can listen to it if you missed it, or it'll repeat during the day on Facebook. And so it's good. It's getting better and better. We just finished it's our 5th week doing it. So nothing real heavy for all of us, but just something a little light to get the day going.
It's great. Thanks for providing that, because we all need a little more laughter in the world that we're living in. I mean, even before all that's been happening now, it's just life. We need that light air around us. Obviously, you and I, when we talked this week, we were able to land on this incredible gift that you have of being patient. How did you even, like I was talking about having the awareness, how did you become aware that was a gift that you were given?
I come from a family. My father's a farmer, and I think farmers, just by definition, are patient people. Plant the seed and wait. I don't know if he just looks at it in the field or what, but there's a lot. You got to wait for that crop to come in. So my dad modeled a lot of that to me. My brother. Actually, everyone else in my family, my brother, my sister, my mother, are very, very just wound up people. But I always, for some reason, was very entertained by that. So I was very I was always just watching that. I was very patient in watching them overreact to things. And but I take that, I do take that deep breath, and I kind of see what's going on. And so I think I do get that from my father. But yeah, it was, and my father kind of instilled that in things he would say to me too. Don't be quick to speak, just kind of listen to what people are saying, and you'll get to know a lot about a person, especially if you're just getting to know them, or if they've got a problem, just be a good listener. And so my dad modeled that to me. One thing that I didn't put together until I was probably in my 20s. So my middle name is Matsu, Matsu. So it rhymes with my last name, but it was my grandfather's name. It actually, I'm half Japanese. The name Matsu kind of translates, it's got 2 meanings. It means pine, like pine tree. And it also means patience, which I just think that's wasn't a planned thing. And I didn't go, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be patient.
Because that is a coincidence.
And my grandfather also was a farmer too. And from what I understand, I never met the man, but from what I understand, a lot like my father, very, very patient. Again, farmers tend to have that real kind of sit and wait attitude, and there's not a whole lot you can do, but if there's a problem, you solve it, and that's what you do. So people started pointing that out to me, like, wow, you're hard to rattle, you're very patient. Like even ridiculous things. If a friend leaves me a obnoxious voicemail that will go on for the entire time until it cuts them off, they'll do it on purpose just to see if I'll listen to it, and I will. So I win.
They're testing you all the time, the time. Now that they know, they're going to test you. But
I do get that a lot. I get the, you're way more patient than I am, but it's just, I don't know.
It's definitely a gift. I can't ignore this little God sprinkle, because I did not realize that your dad was a farmer. So today I was up in my office, preparing a little further for today. And I said, what does the Bible say about patience. It says a lot of different things, but I stumbled on a video by Rick Warren, and he was talking about so specifically the book of James and what it says about farming and that concept. And it's the perfect analogy. You know, if we can all live like a farmer, where because part of control, I'm sure part of patience is lack of control. And farmers don't have control over the weather, the economy, the other, the soil, all of it. So that's such a great jumping off point.
I think it's the key to the whole thing. So you were talking about, we talked about this and you put it up on screen. So like your awareness, to me, that really is like acknowledgement. It's acknowledgement that I am not in control of anything. Yeah. I don't know everything. I can't do everything. And with all that, then wait, who can do all things? Well, then you give it up to God.
It's such a great surrender.
He's there all the time for you. He's got your back. He's guiding you. You just have to release that and let it go. And that's what patience is, I think, is you have to, not that you're not doing something, but you're not in that alone. Because I think, I don't know, there's a lot of frustration that comes with ownership to like, oh, I got to fix this problem, or this isn't going the way I want to. And that's, it's very difficult for people to wrap their arms around the idea like, it's not, I don't have to handle this problem.
That's so true. It couldn't be more true, because it's the doing, the do. I joke around about the do and do and do. It's like you're standing sort of standing in a pile of it, like just do and do and do. And, doing gives us such this sense of a false sense of comfort. Like then that then defines our how productive we are, how accomplished we are, how powerful we are, how valued we are. Yeah. And that's where the problem comes in, is that
I think doing can also be an avoidance.
Yeah. Oh,
you're not working on the problem. Sometimes you're like, and then you go over here, work this because I don't want to deal with this right now.
Yeah. So avoidance behavior, 100%.
Too much of that too is not a good thing. Because you're just working. You're not solving a problem, or you're not addressing a problem. You're just kind of, avoiding.
Yeah.
Which is easy to do nowadays with, cell phones and everything else.
I know. Easy. I mean, it's in our culture. It's ingrained in it. So we'll talk about parenting in a minute too, but then we miss the God sprinkles. We miss the opportunity. We miss maybe the provision that's coming our way. We miss it all when we're so impatient moving on to the next thing. So,
right.
Give us some examples of ways that you see the value of being patient. And then I want to talk about the contrast of what time in your life where you weren't, and you could see that contrast.
I mean, overall, patience is something you kind of have to teach yourself to do a little bit. I would believe. Either you hear people, I've run out of patience, or I have a lack of patience, or patience is a virtue and all this. So patience is very much in the mindset of everyone. It's just practicing it to the point of understanding you can have. There's so much that goes into this. I mean, I don't know where to start.
I know exactly what you mean. It can be so complicated, but it's just putting that.
Okay, so I think, not to cut you off, sorry. So, but there's so much frustration that comes with, because I'm impatient and I need to talk.
Yeah. This is going to be a great conversation, because I'm right with you. I get it. Like, hold on, I got to say something.
But that is it. There's a frustration to either I'm not solving a problem and I got to do something, and there's just that frustration that can sometimes turn into anger, and that anger then just makes you miserable. And depending on the type of person you are, you can spread that miserableness to everyone else around you, and now everyone's miserable and everybody's in a bad mood. Whereas if you can deal with the frustration of why are you frustrated? So if you can identify that and then figure out how to make that better, work your plan or whatever it may be, then you're going to relax in that. You'll show patience to trying to solve that problem. And then that has a domino effect to everyone else in your life.
It all starts with putting your finger on it. And I think a lot of the issue in our culture is, maybe we just don't have enough conversations about, well, obviously patience is the end result, but the stem, speaking of farming, like the root problem is just, it's always comes from something internal, whether it's lack of worthiness for feeling, or we have to prove ourselves, or whatever it is. I remember, I was thinking about this morning. I remember a picture, and I show it in some of my talks. It's a picture of our little girl, Michaela, who I love it. She did her own hair this one day. She was real little, and one ponytail was up here and one was down here. And I remember feeling so impatient because of the root, because we were going somewhere, and I was worried that people are going to judge me as a mom, that her hair isn't, what, doesn't she care about her? And I remember that was my root issue. So the impatience was, no, we got to hurry. Now we're late. We got to, and I look back and I have such regret that I didn't see the beauty in that. I didn't see the beauty in her taking the initiative. So we missed that. That's one of the things that we miss. And that's what you're talking about.
Yep. And patiently, years have gone by and you can go, now you see it. You know what I mean? That's the other thing too, is the lesson you're going to learn. You're not going to learn it today. It might be down the road. I know there's a wealth of information my father tried to instill in me in high school, because I'm fortunate. My dad retired when I was a freshman in high school. And so I got a lecture based on what my brother and sister were doing wrong every day. And but by the time, I was in my 20s and all that, then it's like, okay, I kind of understand what he's saying. But my father passed away about 18 years ago. But every day I go, oh, like I get it now. Like, okay, I get what he's trying to say. I didn't have kids at the time, obviously. So now that I have kids and I'm talking to my kids and my father's being repeated out of my mouth, I'm like, oh no, wait a minute. Oh, now I get it. When you
open your mouth and your mom or dad, their wisdom, they're all the things they say, it pops right out of your mouth. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, I was listening.
It's wisdom. That's what David and I were talking about that this morning, that at the as you go along, you realize it's just a wisdom that you pick up, and but we still can fall back into old habits so easily.
Very easily. Oh, yeah.
Yes. I am sorry. I know you mentioned that you lost your dad, and I know you and I talked about when you lost your brother. But oh my gosh, I love the story that you told about your brother and the realization that you had years later. And it was all tied around the concept of patience on your part.
There's several stories with my brother. You talking about
his faith journey?
His faith journey, yes. I have a lot of funny stories about my brother. So my brother's name was Ron. He was my older brother, middle child to our family. He was very funny, outgoing guy. I would define him as a workaholic, but he had no faith, and but he always had a servant's heart, and he would do anything for anybody at the drop of a hat. But that's how he worked. So he had a great work ethic. So he would work his job, and he was in the produce industry early on, and it's a hectic business. You're up early. You're getting you're delivering food to everyone and all that. And so work. And then on his off time, which wasn't much, he would go help somebody do something, fix a car, do this, whatever. So that was his mentality 24/7. And, that's going to have its consequences with his family life, with his, and married a few times.
It's almost an impatience right there, is to be more, to do more, to provide more, and it creates its own angst. He was straying away from any sort of faith, right? And you were constantly being patient.
And a little bit, that's the avoidance we were talking about too. Like religion is one thing too. A lot of people go, I don't have time for that. So they look over here and they try to keep going their own path. In those relationships too, that, by the time those relationships come and go, I mean, divorce is devastating. He'd gone through a couple of them, and he'd hit rock bottom at that point too. And, you can ask a person to church as much as you possibly can, how it is with friends, but with family, it's a little different. Sometimes it can be a little more difficult, but my wife and I, we kind of stayed on him, and just didn't force the issue, but always like, hey, you're already here. You want to go, kind of thing. And so, and then over time, for one of his birthdays, I gave him a Bible, and, but then you just sit and wait, you can only do so much without, especially family. Like I said, you talk to them all the time. And if you kind of just hit that same note all the time, they kind of go tone deaf to it. So
right.
So try to live by example, and then the people that you have in your life are any activities we had with the family or friends, birthday parties, all that. All of our friends from church are over, and a lot of our church friends were there. And so my brother kind of got to experience that and realized, oh, this isn't that scary,
Right.
But it wasn't until his third wife was the one who they were kind of on the same path. She had just started kind of going to church, and she got him to go to church, and then he got completely that became his life, pretty much the last 10 years of his life, almost 12 years of his life, where he was very active in his church, and took that servant heart and did everything he was putting aside for that. He put that into the church, and then just really that was his life. He was just
what was the evidence then at his funeral where you said you saw
so
you realized?
Yeah, so my brother, so when he passed away 5 days after his 53rd birthday, which is coming up here in April. It'll be 5 years. And so everything's funerals scheduled and all that. And I mean, you never know what to expect at a funeral ever. But we get there, and it was packed house. It was 500, and I think it was about 500 people, 550 people ish, which was just overwhelming. I did not expect that. I expected there would be a lot of people there, but not standing room only. And even with that, there were so many people. There was a guy from who met my brother in 7th grade, who didn't go to high school with my brother. We ended up going to another school. And this guy just approaches me. He's like, "Hey, I only knew your brother for 2 years out of my life, but he really I just remember him and this, and I saw that in paper. I just had to come." It was little stories like that blew me away, and people flying in to come to the funeral. And but the other witness to that was, I mean, not only was that great for my brother's non-church friends, but there's so many of my brother's friends that didn't know like the last 30 years of his life, because they knew him from college, and that was it. And a lot of those guys, they got witnessed to there at the funeral, and just catching them up really with what was going on in his life and what was going on. And it turned out it wasn't a sad, like I said, my brother was very funny. So it wasn't a sad occasion. It's supposed to be about an hour long with a few people speaking. And it ended up being, I think it was close to 2.5 hours, with several people getting up and telling stories. And it was just, it was a true blessing. And it got to the point too, where it wasn't sad. I still think of my brother very fondly, daily. We used to talk about the dumbest things ever. And I miss that, but what he left behind, I think, was really a gift to so many people, that just those that knew him and saw the change in him, but those that had those missing years were able to kind of see that. So that was something where I didn't have any control over that, but
no control, like the farmer. I'm sorry for your
patient and just kind of and see how your God sprinkles.
Right, God sprinkles. Yep. I am sorry for your loss. What was your brother's name?
Ron.
Okay. I know.
Ronnie. We call him Ronnie.
It's a beautiful story, because I just put that roadmap up, and at the end of that roadmap is when you get to see the growth. And I love the analogy of the farmer. You were just planting seeds into his heart and his soul, and other people probably did that as well. And then he started to see the transformation in his life, and you were able to see that at his funeral, because you could see all the people's lives that he touched. And I'm just thinking about the wisdom that your dad implanted in both of you, with all the little seeds of wisdom. And we don't always get to see. We're not always gifted to see the growth. We can see it, hopefully, in ourselves, because we have an awareness to look for it. But that's a beautiful story of transformation.
It does take a lot of people. I think people will point that out over time.
Right.
Like, oh, they'll see growth in you before you will.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the farmer. Like, somebody walks up to the crop, they can see it. You were off, somewhere else planting more things, and it's nice when somebody can point that out.
Well, it's like your kids.
Yeah.
You see your kid, and they go, I'm going to church camp, whatever. They're gone a week. They come home, and you're like, they grew.
Yes, I know. Yes. Speaking of kids, that is such a great arena to jump into with regard to patience, because they say, you think you're patient until you have kids.
Yeah.
Expectations, the way we want them to act, what we want them to do, the way we want them to listen, the way we want them to learn. I mean, talk about, the things that they are dealing with on the other end too. What's your advice about parenting? How and are you patient all the time?
Now we've hit a sore spot. No, I'm kidding.
I love that laugh of truth. Like,
If I knew, I would tell you the secret, because I don't. But I guess one thing I can say is this: my wife and I've known my wife since we were in third grade, and so we've known each other our entire lives. We are on the same page when it comes to parenting all the time. If we are not, it will be a timeout. We'll go to another room, discuss what the difference might be, come up to a solution or an agreement as to this or that, and then come back and then reapproach the children with the whatever consequences or whatever it might be going on.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are equally yoked in that. I mean, in terms of our relationship, we are very equal. I mean, she is not patient. She's not here. But she would tell you this right off. She's not. That's where we really balance each other out. She's very quick to quick off the mouth sometimes.
And that's what we're talking about too. And then that's where the end of the other side of it is the regret in that, that's where, we look back and we go, oh, I did that thing because I wasn't patient. It's hard.
And there's something I will say, the way my wife is, she's a professional athlete, and she's one of those get in there, take care of the problem. And you're talking about doers. She boom. But it's like, where that needs to be fixed. She's already fixing it while you're still having the discussion. It's like, wow. Yeah. She rebuilt my wife, just real brief tangent. So my wife has rebuilt a car with her father. She became a professional golfer after 1 year of playing when she was 23 years old. I mean, she's a doer. You can't tell her no. She just figures out a way to do it. Which is, again, me, I'm I'm a patient planner. Like, okay, well, you do this. Okay, now I'm going to do that. Right. Whereas she's like, she would rather jump into it, get muddied up, and figure out how we make this work.
That's so cool, especially as a golfer. And that she had that success so quickly. Anybody that's a golfer, that's one of the most frustrating things, is trying to be patient with your game.
It's the most patient, because how many guys do you hear like, I've been playing for 23 years now, and hopefully I'm going to break 90. It's like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, the patience she must have she's a golf pro, so she's giving lessons. Oh my gosh, the patience.
Yeah. I mean, when she was on tour, it's a different thing. When you're lessons, now you got to have a complete different set of patient skills for somebody as to, because she'll come home and tell me, you can tell them 100 times, don't break your wrist. And every time they'll break their wrist, and she's like, you sound like a broken record. And then,
it's so true. Going back to parenting, what advice would you give parents that are just sitting here going, I'm just impatient? Maybe they're feeling thankful that we're putting an awareness stamp, a value stamp on the concept of being patient. But what would you say to parents? What are the steps you take? Or
the most important thing that I do with my kids is that, your cell phone is the worst thing possible, because you don't have these conversations with people all the time. It's one thing with coworkers or something, but when it comes to your kids, I'm always like, put the phone down for a second and look at me. Eye contact. So this is like an improv thing. I think this is where it comes from me. That with your scene partner or whoever you're having this discussion with, that person, you need eye contact. It was super important, so that they understand that you have their attention, that they understand that this is important of what you're saying to them. So I've always done that with my kids. Like, come over here, come here, look at me. Okay, so I need you to today. So, okay, tell me what I just said, when they're really little. I don't do that with them. I should do that with them now. My son's 18. And with less attitude, you could tell me that again.
Let me go ahead and try that again. I'm going to be patient while you try that again.
But eye contact is super important with the kids. Also, when the kids are talking back, and again, these are all improv things, watch their body language. What are they doing with their body when are they not engaged with you? Dad, one, or not just the body language, but how they're answering you back to, like, okay, Like, okay, is that okay that it got into your head, or is it okay, got it? You know, so listen to what they're saying, how they're saying it, what their body's doing, all that. You want full attention the same way when they're telling you a story. Be an active listener and be like, okay, yeah, okay. And if you don't understand something, because I don't know, there's, you know, kids and slang and everything else. I try to keep up as much as possible. I think I'm up, but I'm like, I don't understand what are you talking about exactly?
What do you mean you're lit? I don't know what does that mean? You're
exactly
lit. When we were growing up, that meant you've been drinking. Is that what you mean? Because
right, exactly. So, yeah. So have a clear communication so that you understand, so that they understand what you kind of expect out of them in a scenario, and they're able to tell you also that they acknowledge what the circumstances are, or what the
we probably model that. When I think back to my daughter with her hair or any other example, we think we're doing a good job, and it's not about condemning ourselves. But when we look back, we might have modeled, well, I'm sure in today's world, it modeled impatient behavior, and then they pick it up. So it's never too late. That roadmap we were talking about, I think you had a different word for vision, to be able to see that. Vision is not only going forward, but it's looking back, giving grace, but saying, okay, I can go back with my child and look at the vision of what it was, and explain to them, we can do this again. We can try this again. And putting a value on patience with them.
Yep. And it's good any problems that arise, you got to take that and you got to learn from it. Any scenario, you learn from it. And as you get older, you're like, well, I'm not going to stand on a chair with wheels anymore. That only took once to learn that lesson.
Try that. Yeah. I have a feeling this is coming from a very personal place in there where you actually
I'm just saying there's a point where you become an adult. I was in my office one day, had a big, huge, heavy box, and there was a chair, a rolling chair, and I thought, I'll stand on this and I'll put it up top. But I did catch myself before doing it. I went, you're smarter than this. You're not.
But then that's where the transformation comes in. Like,
I'm 18 and you're going to fall, do some awesome Jackie Chan roll and stand up and go, oh, I'm fine. You're going to fall and go, oh.
Oh my gosh.
That hurt for 5 days later or whatever. So.
Oh no. Hey, I know you were saying that there was a time in your life where you, first of all, you really recognized how patient you normally are. There was a time in your life where you realized you weren't patient, and you could turn around then with that vision and go, okay, I appreciate that patience, because it didn't show up so much right then.
Yeah. I'd say early in my early life, again, I'm the youngest. I get all this time with my father. He's a very encouraging person. And so that kind of motivated me. So when I was 18 and I graduated high school, I kind of decided what I wanted to do, which was I wanted to get into video at the time. So this is the late 80s. So this is when you're lugging big gear and all this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But, I kind of got my act together, went through community college, learned how to use cameras and all this kind of stuff, got done and started a business. I was on this track to just go. So I started my business and I just started jumping in. I was doing a lot of corporate video at the time. I did weddings periodically and this kind of stuff, but it was just this constant flow of go. And then I got married and it was go. And then my wife got on tour, and then it was me by myself, go. For, she'd be gone for sometimes the longest she was ever gone was a month. But during that time, I just filled my time, because all my friends were off. They were still in, they're starting their careers and everything else. But I was 24/7 work oriented, just go with no personal life really going on at the time. And it was just, I couldn't see past trying to just build my business. And when I was about 27, so I started my business at 20, at 27, I just hit a brick wall. I was just like, I started having anxiety attacks because I was just,
wow.
it was like a never ending thing, and I saw no end. Like, what's success at that point? I'm not reaching the success that I thought I wanted or whatever it might be. And just everything just came kind of crashing down. Like, it was just like I couldn't control anything in my life, and it took my wife's well, they're my friends too, but my wife has this long time friend of hers who is her family, they're morticians. And if you ever want to know something about life, go talk to a mortician, because they've seen a lot, But she's like, why are you burning the candle at both ends? And what is the deal? I had no answer for it other than I just thought this was what I was supposed to do. Like I didn't want to let anybody down. And I was letting myself down, greatly. And so she was just like, you've got to take time for yourself. There's no consequence to you not getting a project done the next day. I mean, what's the worst? Somebody's disappointed at you. But to me, that was like, I can't disappoint anybody, and I can't, no empty promises to people. I don't want to do that. But I did. I had to take a breath. I had to slow down, and I had to realize, like, she's right. I could plan this better. First of all, I started giving unrealistic, promises. I'll get that done tomorrow.
And it's self-inflicted expectation. Why do we do that to ourselves? I mean, nobody said. I love that. And talk about a God sprinkle. I'll hear all of a sudden, here's this mortician that is in your path that's telling you this. What a great opportunity. And you were able to see it yourself. And that's what it's about, is looking back. It's like that. I picture a big stamp with a red words that say value or look here on that moment that you said. And then you made the change. You needed to be on the way to the transformation and the growth. What did you do then? How did you stop that madness?
I had to realize that, yeah, she's right. If I don't get this done tomorrow, in terms of whatever it was, it's not the end of the world. It's not, how does this affect me? It doesn't really affect me as a person and what I'm doing and my relationships and everything else. It just doesn't, that's just the work. That's just the thing that I do. I wasn't putting any value on myself or my friends and family and getting involved, I mean, I was involved in church quite a bit too at the time. Yeah. But again, it was just like, I don't know, you're just on autopilot after a while, and you have to like wake up and then have a realization of like, oh, I can't control a little bit of this. I am, yeah, you're right. I'm default for saying I'm going to do, I have to. Why? I don't know. I have to. We just feel like that.
One thing I'd like to talk about are the 7 layers of why. Like, so you stop for a minute. Like that's what this is about today, is putting a value also on just before we even get to the patience part, to just stop for a second, like just stop and sit down. That's what we would tell our kids to do. Stop, sit down, and just say why. Like in that moment, she said to you why, and then you have to ask yourself why, and then you're going to give yourself an answer, and then say why. Keep going. You get down to that root. A lot of times that's where the tears are, or the awakening, which you're like, why? And that's what I love about the process I love to work people through, is they get to that core why, and they're like, okay, that had nothing to do with what I thought my purpose was in that thing.
Right.
My why might be because somebody said I wasn't valuable enough, or somebody said you're not, whatever it is. We get these little, we pick up great nuggets along the way, and God sprinkles, but we also pick up some nuggets that just plant in there, and that becomes that reason why. And that's what you're talking about. So what did you land on as your why? Like, why?
I think part of it for me was like, it's not that I put my father on a pedestal. I mean, I love my father to death. I learned so much from the man, and he was very smart, knowledgeable guy. My dad was also a lot older than most people's parents. My dad was probably grandpa age to everybody, but my dad married late and all that. So he was a wealth of wisdom, and we spend a lot of time to that. And I think deep down, I just wanted to make him proud of me. And
I think you were going there,
but he always was.
Always was. Yes. Like
for some reason, I just saw that. What's really funny too, is my father's the one who encouraged me to be a comedian my whole life. He's like, you're funny. You should do this. You should go to clown school, you'd say, and all this. And for some reason, I would straight arm going, no, it's a cute idea, Dad, but no, it was never something I plan on doing, because I just deep down, I don't know if it's, to be honest, I don't know if it's a Japanese cultural thing too, that you want to, you want to present yourself in a way that is acceptable to society, so that everybody sees you and says, oh, that person's successful and doing a good job, and I think that was ingrained because my dad, quick backstory on that, my dad was in high school when World War II broke out for the US with Pearl Harbor. Again, my father was born and raised in Arizona, and it became a very difficult time for him. So he was told by his parents, you've got to look right, walk right, speak right. Don't draw attention to being a troublemaker or anything else like this. So his life was all about people are watching you. And so that was kind of ingrained too, because my dad would say, just don't act a fool in public and all this.
Which canceled out probably in your subconscious comedy.
Exactly. But
that's what I'm talking about. It's deeply ingrained in us. We have to stop and look at when you went to all those levels of why, you probably landed on, like you're saying, a lot of it was you wanted to make your dad proud, and it was a self-inflicted truth that you put on him. Like, he didn't even say that, right? We do that. We do. We place something on somebody else that it's a story. That's why I love story. One way I could describe what I do is help people with their story, because that story you were telling yourself, that now look at the end result. You were sitting in a pile of anxiety, and it was because of that deep rooted why that was all skewed.
Yeah. Yep.
It's cool. This is beautiful. Thank you for that truth, because it's
what's so interesting, I think, about it is that over time, I used to say all the time, my wife will tell you this, and my brother's wife will tell you this too, that there was constantly this term that we would say that everybody's watching me.
Yeah.
That we used to say that. Yeah. I don't know, people are watching me. Like, I don't know who, I never felt like it wasn't government or anything, but it was just like people are watching you, whatever. And it wasn't until after all that, I was like, oh, nobody's watching me. My brother, the same thing. Because like one day we were having a conversation when my brother and his wife and my wife and I were having dinner or something. And it was the wives who were like, yeah, they say that all the time. People are watching them, because that's what we felt growing up, because it was instilled in us that people were watching.
It's a story.
And so once I think I got past that, nobody's watching me, then it was like a completely different, I feel free from that completely to kind of be a comic, so that technically when you're on stage, everyone is watching you, but in a completely different way, So
when you were able to place a value, like a contrast value on that, there is value in being a clown and being funny. Mm-hmm. And did your dad see you perform comedy?
So he didn't, which is unfortunate. I did radio. Like I always like to say, I go backwards. I started in television, and then I went to radio, and then from radio I went to improv. From improv I went to stand up, and someday I will be doing vaudeville and wall sketches. But my dad did hear me on the radio a little bit, which was good. To kind of just go back for a quick second, I will say that like in the last 10 years of my dad's life, I do recall me teaching him more or less, and me encouraging him, saying, there are still people in the world that are watching. It's your generation, but the new generation is not. The new generation is learning from the mistake of what had gone on. And so, I think he felt some more comfort in that too, and just how he spoke to, younger kids. Because people don't know how, my dad would have coffee every day at 3:00, and some young kid one day, and the kid didn't know how to ask, but he wanted to know, about my father.
Right.
So the question is like, so what are you? My dad's like, I'm a human being. Are you asking what nationality I am? What race I am? Whatever it is. So those were the kind of things I said. That kid's not asking for any other reason that he's curious. He, obviously you've had conversation with him in the past. He just wants to know more about you, but he's a kid. He doesn't know how to ask the question correctly. So there's a little bit of that going on. So that was kind of a nice turn. But still always enjoyed, my dad, and still hear those conversations in my head all the time. So
I love that he always saw it. It was like he could just see in the future. He just knew you were born to do exactly what you're doing now. Right. I want to go over to that for a second, but I want to go back to a couple of things. One is your dad's wisdom. And you said that he would always, the value that one of the bits of wisdom he gave you about patience is to stop and see people. Yeah. And, I love that as it is part of your brother's story too, because at his funeral, you were able to see that he may not have maybe expressed himself or showed the evidence of his faith, but he was able to see people, and that's why people turned out. And I just want to say that about you. You see people, and that is something that I see. I know that we have mutual friends, and that's a gift to be able to do that, because we learn so much. And in today's culture, it's the power of the thumb. We don't see people. We scroll right by what they're doing. We don't take time. And that's why, coffee chats like this, where you can share your wisdom, it's a chance for you to see people out there without seeing them, but impart some wisdom on them.
Well, and a lot of that too, I think, I know we're not going through the steps and everything like that, but like you were talking about, what your word was vision. Okay. My word is plan. In that, planning to me is just, it involves a lot of listening to people. So in terms of like, not so much for yourself, what I'm talking about right now, but when you're talking about to other people,
right?
It's because you're willing to listen to somebody and understand what they're talking about. If they were asking for advice, or if you've heard something, they need something, but they're not asking for it, you can still help provide something for them when they need it. But a lot of that stems from just being quiet and listening to somebody and letting them talk. Because the more they talk, they'll start,
it's true.
I have a lot of people that like, I haven't told anybody this, like, oh, yeah. I'm that guy. Okay.
It's so true. There's so much. And even for our offenders, it's important to stop. I always say that, stop and try to, even if they're not going to tell you, but maybe figure out what their story is, or listen in on maybe the clues they're giving, because they may be offending you, but there may be a backstory that there's always, there is always.
Sure. Right.
Always a backstory. I love that. And then with our kids too, just taking time to stop and listen. And a lot of, I think what you're saying too, is creating the margin in our life. We're not doing all the time, creating that space. It's creating the soil to plant that value of patience and watch it grow.
Yeah. I think it's tough with social media. We're not investing in people the same way. Right. It's such a surfacey, it's not that, to go back, a lot of farming metaphors going on today. It's not that deep rooted. It's that, it's that seed on the rock. Yeah. That's what social media is. Oh, I see you. I acknowledge and move on. Whereas I really need to go back and, it's not always your job to tend to that particular crop, but at least try to get it in a better place, maybe where that it'll grow, or be a part of that. That's but it's,
gosh, such goodness, such wisdom. There's so much I want to get to. I want to get to your comedy career.
Is there one right now during the pandemic?
What are we doing? We don't even know.
This is the best gig I've had in months. What are you talking about?
I was looking at your website. I was even on your schedule. Yes.
Yeah, see?
Awesome.
I do it.
One thing I definitely want to touch on is your faith. First question I'll just give you what I'm wanting to talk to you about. One is, have you always had faith? Two, what do you say to people that want to start on their faith journey, but it's the impatience of, is God listening? Is he really there? The impatience that comes with all of that. I know you counsel couples, individuals with regard to faith. So if you would talk about that, that would be awesome.
Not professionally, if that's what you're saying.
No, but with small groups, and not professionally, but with professional sort of wisdom, because professionalism comes with wisdom and experience.
Sure. Unless you're a comic, you're semi-professional sometimes. You're kind of like this guy's a goofball, but he said some good things. I don't know. But yeah, so as a kid, I mean, my family did attend church, and long story short, we stopped going to church. So when I was very young, but to me, I always felt the presence of God in my life, always, despite not going to church anymore. And I remember for several years when I was very young, I just couldn't get over the fact, like, why are we not going to church? Which was never really answered to me. But as I got older, I started drifting, of course, like, I don't know what's going on, because I'm not going to church and all that. But ultimately, my wife now, it's so weird to say that, my wife that I met in third grade, is so weird. But anyway, and I was in third grade too, people. So, but when we started dating, it was one of those things where she said, come to church with me. And it was, the only thing I knew about church was based on what I used to experience. So this was completely different. Our church at the time was maybe 400 people. So it wasn't scary. And I really did enjoy it and started enjoying it more and more. Yeah, and then it just kind of, you just get plugged in, you start, uh, you meet people who have the same faith. It's so nice to have people that are on the same page as you. Yeah, my wife and I, we've been together so long, but we are, like I said, we're very complementary to each other in terms of our strengths and weaknesses. So when we, in our small groups, we tend to be the older ones now in the group, which I don't know how that happened.
All of a sudden you look up and you're like, wait a minute, how old are you?
I still think I'm 25 and I'm 52. Maybe I'm dyslexic. I just realized that. Anyway.
When they say what year they graduated and you think they mean college and they're like, no, I meant high school. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So, but a lot of times too, I mean, we sit there and, couples will talk about something that's just like, oh, this and that. And we just kind of laugh and go, they're so young. They don't know. Because I don't know, for us to talk about patience just for another minute, I mean, we're pretty patient with each other. We know, I mean, obviously we've been together long enough that we, divorce is not any kind of thing that even exists. Even now saying it, I just don't ever say that word. It's just strange. But, it's not, we're no perfect couple by any means, but we do have good communication skills. And Jesus is the center of our life, and we both know that, and that's where everything starts with us, even with kids, and to be honest, as parents, that was our key, was to make sure that our parents understood, our faith, and that it would become their faith. And kids are fantastic. They're plugged in with church and all that. But to go to your question, it's just, to me, look at, if you're not a Christian and you're look at other Christians, I mean, sometimes people judge them really harshly, and say, oh, that guy did that, that's not, that one person's not the example for all Christians, because that guy, just like a lot of us, we all have that, you're talking about, that deep rooted thing that makes not perfect, but that's a communication thing where you have to talk to more Christians, see where that guy's, where was that guy before he is now. I mean, there's that transformation you're talking about. It does take time. It could be that person was an alcoholic and this and that and whatever, and has worked very hard to get to where he is, and still not perfect, but still trying. You could talk to anybody around there. I mean, there's so many people that don't, I don't know. Leading by example is one thing. You've got to read, and you got to get into the word too. And you kind of just really need, it is a journey. That's why they call it your life journey. But, and that's a patient thing. You have to get in your habits of reading your Bible, and, going to your Bible studies, and going to church and asking questions. My father-in-law's great. I mean, very lovable church-going guy who's got a wealth of knowledge, and he's somebody I know I can always go to if other people aren't available. But he's got
having somebody to look up to and to glean from, that is so.
And find somebody that you can ask, early on, if you can find somebody who can kind of mentor you a little bit in their spiritual life and their journey, that's like that you equally deal with, and say, oh, I used to do that. I used to be a workaholic like that.
That's when it becomes real life. And that's when scripture jumps off the page to you. You're like, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And you tend to see too, those people draw to each other. God puts them together.
Yes. Sure. What do you say? I know there's a lot of conversations going on right now in friends circles, and you hear it in the world, especially somebody that is really surrendered and giving everything that they know God is calling them to do. They're doing it, and they're praying for provision, or they're praying for the next step or the clarity. And it's just, you might see other people around you getting that, but you're not. And you're like, okay, God, I'm trying to have patience, but that's not even a word. It's just a feeling.
Yeah.
What do you say to people that come to you asking you about that?
So I think part of that, you feel like you're sidelined for your life. You feel like you're waiting and you're just watching everybody else do their thing, and you're waiting to get into the game.
Farming other opportunities because you're laser focused on what you feel like you're being called to do.
It's those people that focus on that one thing, success or whatever. How come I don't have it? It's a job promotion you don't get. It's this or that. But you still have to invest in yourself and what you're doing. You just can't sit around and wait for things to happen. In terms of career and relationships, you've got to be an active part of your own life, and talk and open communication. And that's why I think that working that plan thing always kind of works. What do you want to do to self-better yourself? Well, okay, I'm going to plan. I will wake up every morning and read my Bible. And then after that, I'm going to exercise and take care of my body.
Right.
And then I'm going to, for career-wise, what am I going to do to get that promotion or to work hard to get the raise? What are some steps I can do to do that? And you're not going to see it again right away. It's going to be down the road where people are going to say, hey, you look great. You've been so encouraging to me. And, just what are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
People will notice. So
yeah,
you can't sit and wait and have a pity party on yourself, but you're going to have to be patient if for whatever reason you're not, again, you were great at what is that? What's going on deep down that's making you, that puts you in this particular mood.
It's too, for the people that are like just leaning on their faith and they are taking the steps and they are arming other opportunities and seeing other things happen for other people. I have to remind myself that it's in the fire that's where the refinement happens. And I know it's like we were talking about, we don't have control over the seeds. We can plant them, we can have trust and faith, but God has the fabric of our lives all in front of him. And there's something that we don't see that's also important to hang on to.
Yeah.
I want to, speaking of greatness here, June Coulson, we love her. She's complimenting you on, it's true, how you really do see people. You guys should find June Coulson on Facebook. She just started, did you see her? She started last week. It's I don't know what the name of it is, but she's giving words of wisdom and she's talking about her faith journey. So it's with that topic. And
June's fantastic. And June's got great storyteller, first of all, but she's got some incredible stories.
Yeah.
So,
she's a walking testimony of patience.
Oh,
God having patience with her and her having patience with God. And boy, what she's doing now especially coming from, a disbelief. And so that's a great testimony. If you find June Coulson on Facebook, you guys. Okay. So much to you. I can't believe the hour is almost up, but I want to ask you, about improv just briefly, like how does that show up with patients? How has that taught you some things?
Improv changed a lot of things, just like relationships. Actually, I've taken some of the improv stuff and turned it into like Mike James and I sometimes do a relationship like workshop.
Right.
Because it's interesting for couples to do improv because a lot of those skills are the same. So a lot of it's communication techniques is what it is. The main thing being listening, but the second thing being how you communicate to each other. That yes and that everybody talks about, which is famous for improv. The idea behind that yes is just hearing what your scene partner said or your partner has said. Yes is hearing it, acknowledging it, and to a degree, when it comes to real life, an agreement. The agreement of that I've heard you. It's not saying I agree completely because you can disagree. And the and is just providing more information. But in the way that the yes and is taught for improv, I say something, you say something, I say something, you say something. And so it's an actual conversation. It's not a one-handed lecture to somebody. You have to learn to listen and give and take. So, and that's just scraping the surface.
I know. Who knew that learning about patience could show up in something like improv?
Yeah.
It shows up in comedy too. I'm going to show this clip. I want to highlight you for a second, showcase your talents because you are so funny. You've had so many great opportunities. I mean, you started doing comedy and you had your Dry Bar special and you're Sirius XM and you're going everywhere doing comedy. And you and I were talking about the difference in different types of comedy. There's the setup punch, but then there's the jokes where you make the audience has to wait a little bit to be patient because it's so good. And that's the perfect example in this clip that I want to share because it's so good. You're taking them on a little journey of an experience you had going to a concert. Hold on one sec and I'll talk with you on the other side of it.
I get there and I pull up and I see on the marquee, it says Wham! Reunion Concert. Okay, right? Okay, so All right, so if you don't know who Wham is, help us out, okay? Wham was two guys, right? George Michael had a pretty decent career, and then he recently passed away. And then there's the other guy. Anybody? Andrew Ridgeley, okay? Just so you know, obviously, if you go to a Wham reunion concert, it's only Andrew Ridgeley. And he only does the parts of the song that he used to do. So, Wake Me Up Before You Go-Go, it's like, jitterbug, jitterbug, boom, boom, bang, 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 jitterbug, yeah, yeah, my beats per minute, wake me up. 2 hours. 2 hours. The only thing worse than that was the guy who opened for him. Oates. It's not a good concert.
Oh my gosh, it's so, my face hurts. I sent that to my brother this morning. We love to send different comedians back and forth with one another. And then I was showing David over coffee this morning, and he was joking. He's like, what if Andrew Ridgeley, right? Is that his name? Andrew and Oates, what they should do their own. Then you have the combination of, the Hall and Oates. Oh, it's so funny, Brian. So funny.
My former radio partner and I, that was a joke that came up in the news because Andrew Ridgeley was he's become like an environmentalist. And I said, yeah, because the concert's working out. It was started off as a radio joke. And then years later, I wonder if I could do it as an actual joke on stage. But it's funny because my radio partner a few years, she lives in New York now. She sent me a thing that Oates was performing at a cafe nearby. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's coming true.
It's so funny. Oh my God. I love it. I watched that so many times. And oh, by the way, you guys should go here. Let's see, to your website, because I forwarded that to my brother too, because if you just watching your promo, your comedy trailer, it's filled with just hilarious little clips.
I tend to be more physical. Obviously, you look at that and go, this guy's a brilliant writer. I like to mix both. I have some heady jokes that I love, but I love the physical stuff too. So, but
it's so good.
That's one of my favorite dumb jokes ever.
It's so funny. I just, you don't think about that. You just don't put that together. And when you were patient enough to listen to that song by Wham and go, you know what? That's true. Like that.
Well, the sad thing about the whole thing is basically it boils down to the fact that, a lot of comics comment on that joke for some reason, because I am not speaking and I have to put myself 100% out there to do it. It is a lot of patience, because the joke, sometimes the laughter doesn't come until the very end of that joke. And you have to either sweat it out and go, just keep dancing like a fool,
yes.
And then, and do it. So I've got a couple jokes that are a little bit like that pacing comes from, to be honest. Will Forte from SNL, he used to do a lot of these really long, patient, you're only going to laugh at the very end of it. And I just always thought that was really funny, but this was before that even. But and then I realized, this is strange, he and I have the same birth date, so I don't know if that's a birthday thing.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
That shows up. Yeah, it could be. You never know. Michelle Van Dusen was saying yes, and is great for marriages, parenting, and the stage. She's talking about, I believe, patience.
Yes, and yeah. And you could talk an hour on just yes and. If you
yes and. In the mix of them, I would love to see Brian make that happen. We love our Michelle Van Dusen too. She's patient. Oh, yeah. She hears me all the time. I call her and she's praying for me all the time. She's just so patient and listening. She's
great. She's a huge supporter. I mean, of not just me, everyone.
Yeah.
She's always there.
Yeah. And you guys don't have to necessarily know these people, but who are your people? That's the thing. Who do you go to pray over you when you're feeling impatient? And, I go through that too. God, I'm patiently waiting on this, or I'm patiently waiting on that. When you have a tribe, like you mentioned, it's so so valuable.
I'll tell you, like with the CCA alone, the people I've met, like I wouldn't know you unless I was a member of CCA, and Michelle and Rhonda, and the list goes on and on and on. And like, you know, Mike, it was Mike James and I in Arizona there for just a little bit that were the only two Christian comics we knew of in the Valley. And now it's just like kind of exploded now, especially with the pandemic. If anything's come out of the pandemic, that's great, is just this ability, like through like what we're doing, like StreamYard and Zoom and all these, where you can actually reach to all these people that I've gotten to know over the past, you know, few months. It's been great, you know, which even more so than you can do sometimes in person, getting around the room to everybody. So
yeah, and it's even like, whether it's a Christian Comedy Association or whatever it is that you're involved with, the viewers, you know, find your people, because it can be lonely, and then that sense of lack of control with what we're all going through can be amplified. And you know, you talk it out with people, have friends that'll pray over you and help you sort it out, you know. And that's one of those things when we talk about praying, you know, God, there's that joke where God kept sending the provision, he kept sending the boat, sending the helicopter, and you're like, no, I'm waiting on, you know. And it's like, like it's all around us, and being surrounded by others that are going through the same thing. You've been incredible. I want to give you a chance to share anything else that you'd like to share with regard to patience. And
I would say the only thing I could think that helps somebody automatically very quickly is trying to that plan that we talked about. Try to work out a plan, because once you remove you start answering the why, like you said. Why am I frustrated? Why do I get so anxious over this? Once you kind of understand that lifts it off. Give it up to God. Now plan out what you need to do to move forward, and just keep moving forward. And with that, the anxiety to patience and all that kind of goes away. So it's when you don't know what you're doing, you kind of just are looking around. That's where worry comes, and then you're not patient, and it can absorb you very quickly. So
100%.
Kind of just, and you'll learn how to be a patient person. I will say, my wife does say you're too patient at times. That could be one way of saying you're lazy, but I don't know.
Yeah, what are you saying? And then you have to do the whole.
I believe that lawn will cut itself. I do.
It's not going to cut itself. That is so great. The typical conversations in marriage, it's just delightful. The stories that we end up telling, like, what are you saying? And then they're responsible for the story we just told ourselves about what we think they're saying. It's just, we got to be patient, slow down, and just, you know, give everybody grace. Oh my gosh.
Learn to take a deep breath. That's the one right there. Just anytime you're frustrated, like, oh, the plane's delayed.
I'm breathing.
Now go find out why.
Before you react, right?
Exactly. Don't go react first, and then go make some poor lady cry.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't know why. Why is that part not available?
What's that?
Why is that part not available for this plane? Could you go get one, please?
That is so funny. I just had this visual of walking through an airport. Everybody's aggravated, and like there's 7 layers of why going over their head. Like you get to the core, like everybody's upset.
Exactly.
But why? And what comes out is a sense of being impatient, and it's everywhere.
You've been on the planes with a plane load of angry people, and it's the greatest thing ever.
And they eliminated a lot of the snacks. It's just a recipe for disaster.
Exactly.
Oh, Brian Kohatsu, thanks for being a friend. Thanks for seeing people, really, really seeing people. And thank you for what you brought for everybody today. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, I hope I brought something.
You did. You absolutely did. Okay, hang on. I want to talk to you in a second, but thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. Okay, Brian Kohatsu, talking about patience. That was so great. And I know it's a process too, where we have to remember that it's not a destination that you arrive at and then that's it. It's continual. We have to practice this. But really just putting that stamp of value on the concept of patience, it's really when we can grow to that and see that and place a value on it and walk through that process of seeing it and transforming and then seeing the growth. There is so much value in that. And really being patient is a superpower. And like so many things, when we transfer over and we figure out our reasons why, and we figure out why we're doing things based on that deep-rooted thing, that in itself is a superpower because it brings so much awareness and healing. But you have to reveal the problem before you can heal it. So I hope that this brought value to you today, a concept where you can put a value on some things. But the whole idea of coffee chats is to bring hope. It's never hopeless. There's always an answer. There's always a reason why, and there's always a place that you can go upward. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you all next week on Coffee Chats at the Cubby Hole. Bye, everybody.